Segment is sponsored by McCaffrey Health Center. And it's Wellness Wednesday, so we have Dr. Sean McCaffrey here today. And so we got a new topic to talk about, and this is about gut bacteria. So first of all, tell us why we're going to be talking about this topic and where we go from here.
It came out in a Harvard research study recently that your gut bacteria, your flora that we all talk about, can potentially impact our overall function, our health, and our brain function. So we're looking at conditions such as anxiety, depression, bipolarism, schizophrenia, that we know now that the bacteria and the chemicals that they release can impact how our body tries to function.
Okay, excellent. So let's talk about kind of the chemistry of it, because there's so much working on, especially when it comes to the digestive tract and the inner workings of our body. So just kind of take us through, how gut bacteria kind of reacts, especially to food that we intake, and maybe if we're changing our diet, if that has a different kind of chemistry to it.
Yeah, so when you're looking at your flora in your gut, the key to this is understanding that what you put in here is going to feed other things besides you.
Right.
And people don't think about that a lot of times, that you have billions of different bacterial cells in your intestinal tract, and they thrive and survive off the food that we put in there. Now, sometimes the foods that we put in can impact that in a negative way. So for example, if you put a lot of sugar into your diet, processed grains, refined carbohydrates, things like that, it tends to feed yeast and candida. Well, then those bacteria can release chemicals. Think of it like, when people sweat. They release sweat on top, or they have an odor that the bacteria can cause. The same thing happens inside you. You're 100% humidity inside here. Okay, and 100 degrees. So you look at that and you think, all right, I'm 100 degrees and 100% humidity, so if I put a fish out on my deck at this time of year, come back 4 hours later, it's not going to look so good, right? So that's what happens inside. So now these bacteria, and in this case the flora, they start to release chemicals, and some of these chemicals can interfere with our nervous system. We then absorb the chemicals back inside, it goes through your bloodstream, it affects your brain and how your brain functions. And so the study was done from Harvard Medical School, and they were looking at this saying, okay, does it affect how we get depressed, how we get anxious, how we get nervous? And it does. Now, their conclusion, in my opinion, is completely wrong, but how they did it, it's not a bad study, it's just their conclusion's incorrect. And it's a little fearful in the way they want to treat this. They want to use antibiotics. And they're saying, gosh, if we put antibiotics in, kill all this stuff off, it reduces inflammation, and all of a sudden we can maybe help depression and anxiety. The problem with that theory is they're looking at it from the idea that glucose in the blood causes these problems. It's not a glucose thing, it's more of an insulin issue, and that's what we're looking at.
Okay, yeah, and I've heard that. I've been trying to do some weight loss myself, and of course, you start with the diet, you incorporate some other things like exercise as well. But hearing about that, it almost seems that if you're intaking too much sugar, too much fatty foods, it's almost like a compound effect. It's not just not good for your own body, but it's not good for the inner workings of what's going on inside you as well.
Yeah, and you're correct on that. And it's interesting you talked about weight loss, because weight ties into all this stuff, right? We have an obesity epidemic going on in our country. It started in the late 70s. We have a diabetes epidemic worldwide. Diabetes is up about 400% worldwide. So we look at that and say, well, it all came in the late 1970s. What did we do different? We recommended low fat. Get away from the fat, stay away from the fat, go low fat in your diet. Well, then we came up with a food pyramid, and the food pyramid was based around breads, grains, cereals, pastas, rice, things that increase glucose. If you increase blood sugar, you have to increase insulin to bring it down, and insulin causes you to be fat. So we look at that and we think to ourselves, oh my gosh, did we do something by accident 40, 50 years ago that potentially is causing epidemic problems today? And we did, and that's what we're seeing.
And we have to retrain everybody's body when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us. Quickly, just tell everybody where they can find more information on this topic.
Yeah, you go to McCaffreyhealth.com. We post everything on there, so we've always got our little blurbs and videos posted for people. And you can catch us on Facebook, or you can catch us here on Fox every Wednesday.
All right, thank you so much for doing that for us.
Thanks, man.